Hiya folks, you're very welcome to the first episode of Larry's Lockdown Lessons. So, in this video we're going to take a look at my fingerstyle arrangement of the Irish song Raglan Road. And I suppose first of all, I'll say that I would say that this is for an intermediate to advanced player. Okay, so if you're just starting out with fingerstyle guitar, or if you're just starting out with the concept of this instrument, you may find this a real challenge. Give it a go by all means if you think you want to tackle something like this, but I'm just putting that out there first of all, that's where I think the skill level is, or the ability level. Okay, so upper intermediate to advanced. The first thing you have to do is put your guitar into drop D tuning. Okay, it should sound like this. So it's basically standard tuning, but you take your lowest string and drop it down a full tone to D instead of E. Okay, and we're going to split this up. There is a tab available, by the way, so I'll link to the tab in the description of this video on YouTube, and on Facebook. If you're watching this on Facebook, I'll either post a link in a comment under the video, or I'll put it in the header description or the post description. So get the tab, and it means you can follow along with it. I'll just say this as well, there are maybe some small things that have changed in the arrangement since I tabbed that out way back whenever I sort of first come up with it. So if you're watching the video and you're reading the tab at the same time, you may come across some things that are slightly different, but don't worry about it too much. I haven't really changed the feel of the song. It just maybe one or two chord positions are different, or I've added in some harmonics in some places, things like that. If you do come across something that doesn't match, if the video doesn't match the tab, don't worry about it. Just follow this video, because this is the most up-to-date version of the song, if you like. Okay, so section 1 sounds like this. Starts off with a harmonic on the 12th fret on the 5th string, which is an A note. Okay, so just play that. Make sure you're dead on the metal, like dead on the fret itself. Okay, so if you're slightly too far behind or too far ahead, it won't sound right. You have to be dead on the metal. Okay, so that's the first melody note. That's on Raglan Road. So that's the first note, and then what follows is this. So that's a hammer on from the 2nd fret on the D string up to the 4th fret on the same string. Okay. Once you get to that part, try and get this to all sort of ring out as well. Once you get there, bring your bass in. That's just the open 6th string. So if you're interested, what you've actually created there is a D major chord. You've all the components, all the ingredients of a D major triad, really. So you have D, F sharp, and A, even though we're playing it as a harmonic. So you have that sound. Okay, if you can get all these notes to ring out, it's a gorgeous sound. Sorry. Okay, so what comes next is the bass on the 5th, so the open 5th string, and play this note straight after. That is the 2nd fret on the 4th string, and then play the hammer on again that we played before, and then the bass. So if this is coming across as a wee bit strange, the reason why it's such a disjointed sound is it is on purpose. I did this purposefully. I wanted to try and emulate or mimic the sound of a vocalist playing against a guitarist, but very freely. So if you actually go back and listen to the original recording by Luke Kelly, he sings this song while he's just playing very free banjo arpeggios in the background. So there's no real structure, there's no real time. It's purely based on how it feels, and I wanted to kind of recreate that in a way on just the acoustic guitar. So that's why a lot of these things, there's a bit of anticipation. You'll hear some notes coming in first. So sometimes you'll hear the bass coming in first, or sometimes you'll hear the vocal or the melody line coming in first. So I did do that on purpose. So okay, so you have After that hammer on, play the 2nd fret on the 3rd string. Then straight away bring in this 4th fret on the 6th string. That's an F sharp note. Then open D, like open 4th string. So you'll get this sound. Again, you've actually created a D chord again. This time, because you have the F sharp note in the bass instead of a D in the bass, it's an inversion. It's an inverted D chord. Just if anybody's interested. So once you have this, play the melody note again. Alright, so and the next note is nice and easy. It's that open B string, so the open 2nd string. And once you play that, you then bring in this note, which is a G note. So that's the 5th fret on the 6th string on your bass string. And get all that to ring out as well. Beautiful, and you can be as free as you want with this. You can hold that for as long as your hand can remain in that position. Okay, what comes next is just a D major triad. So what I mean by that is this A note, so that's the 2nd on the 3rd string, 4th on the 4th string, open 4th string. Okay, so that's the high so. Okay, so I'll play the whole thing in context for you. There's your triad, then bring your bass back in to sort of set the scene again. Okay, what happens next is play the open A string, open 5th string, so. And then straight away after that A, play our hammer on from before. So you have this. And then there's another hammer on that we're going to play here. So that's from open to 2 on the 4th string. While this is still playing, while that bass is still playing. So this can be quite tricky. You have to be really accurate, and you have to make sure you're not muffling the other strings, you know, using the pads of your fingertips or any other part of your hand, you know. So you have to try and be as accurate as possible here. So that's the sound you want. Then open D, and once you play that, bring this note in. So that's the G note, so that just indicates we've changed chord. So we have, then play open A and 2 2nd fret on the 4th string, and then just pull off to open D, and then bring your bass back in. Right, so I'm going to play that whole thing for you nice and slowly, just so you can hear everything in context. That's just called falling at the last hurdle. Okay, so that's how I end that section, just by playing the 3 lowest strings one after the other. Okay, and the guitar can just ring out then. So here's section 2 of the intro, or part 1. So the last thing we played was this. So the next section goes like this. There's where your melody is, so that's the 2nd fret on the 3rd string. And then bring in your F sharp down here, which is the 4th fret on the 6th string, and the open D string, or the open 4th string, giving you that D major inversion that I mentioned. Okay, so in context, it just sounds like this. So you've gone from the previous section, then Okay, so this is setting up the that her dark hair. Okay, open B string like before. Then bring in your G bass, which is the 5th fret on the bass string, or the 6th string. Same again, so it sounds like this. Okay, so you're essentially just repeating that part twice to get that sound. Okay, here you're going to hammer on from this open D, sorry, this open B, so it's the open 2nd string, and hammer on up here. Use your middle finger, but I advise you to use your middle finger. This because of the shape, the chord that's coming next. Okay, so that's the vocal line. Okay, what's coming next is this. So that's the A bass. So open 5th string and then that hammer on the D string. Okay. Once you get to this part, pull off to the open D string, open 4th string, and immediately bring this chord in. This is a B minor chord, but it's only played on the lowest 3 strings, and it's actually an inversion as well. So the notes of a B minor chord are B, D, and F sharp in that order, ascending. This is an inversion because we're not playing the B note in the bass, we're going to play the F sharp note in the bass. So the F sharp is usually the highest note in a B minor chord, but we're going to play the F sharp in the bass this time, giving you this sound. Okay, so that's very simple. You just need 2 fingers for it. So the notes are 4th fret on the bass string, 2nd fret on the 5th string, open 4th string. So from your hammer on up here, it's going to sound like this. Okay, and you don't even need to play that 3rd note again, because you should have it ringing out from the last chord that you played. So in other words, okay, again, so just try and get all this to ring out as nicely as possible and for as long as possible. You're completely in control of the timing here, really. It's part 1's meant to be played as freely as possible. So okay, so after that, you're back up here. So that's the 2nd fret on the G string, and that's your 2 melody notes there. And then you're going to play this open G, and then 4th on the D string, or the 4th string. So the 4th fret on the 4th string. Okay, and I would advise you to play that note with your ring finger, because you're going to need these 2 fingers for the next shape. Okay, so you have. Once you get to that point, bring your 2nd finger in and play the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. So it'll give you this sound. And don't worry if that open G, that G string is still ringing out in this chord, because it'll actually sound quite interesting once we play the whole chord, and you'll see what I mean. So at this point, use your index finger to bring in that B note in the bass, which is the 2nd fret on the 5th string. So at this point, you should have a B. Well, that's a B minor chord. Okay, so that's the notes of B, F sharp, and D up in the air there. So if you play this right, it should sound like this, but you may also hear this. That open G, okay, so it gives you some sort of variation. I couldn't tell you what the name of the chord is. It'll give you some sort of variation of a B minor chord, but it's a nice, interesting sort of tense sounding chord. If you don't like that sound, you can just avoid the G string, so just don't play it. Or if you're finding that you're knocking into it and you don't like that sound, just use your pinky. and fret the 4th fret on the 3rd string, and that'll bring a B note in to give you sort of a normal standard B minor, if you like. Okay, so what you have so far is this. Once you have that and everything's ringing out, play that note again, which is the 4th fret on the 4th string, because that's where the melody is, and then this. And that ends the section for the melody. Once you play that, that's the 2nd fret on the 4th string, play your A bass open. Okay, so you've just completed the whole section. So in context, it should sound like this. So you may have noticed that sometimes I play the bass first. So in other words, I'll play that open A string before I bring that note in. But it's up to you. You can play it either way. So okay, so that's one way, or you can play it. Just depending on what way you want the sound or feel like. So once you've got to that part, we're going to play a section that we've already played before. So it's a repeating section, and it sounds like this. Okay, so we've already covered that, so I shouldn't need to explain anything there. Same again. So you basically just play that whole section twice, and once you finish the 2nd time and you're sitting here ready to go, the melody goes like this. Play that again. Okay, so this is the 2nd fret on the 4th string, then your open 3rd string or G string. Okay, so those are both melody notes. And there's where your next melody note is. That's the F sharp or the 4th fret on the 4th string. And once you play that, once you get to that part, bring in your bass string, open bass string again, okay? And I said, okay, so once you get there, it goes like this. Open A string to bring the bass in. There's where your melody note is. That's the 2nd fret on the 4th string. So you have, and then a hammer on from there to the F sharp. And then bring your bass in, which is the open 6th, and then. Okay, so we've played all this before. Then your triad again. So what I've played there is the open 5th string and the 2nd fret on the 4th string. Once you get to that part, just pull off to the open D, which is the 4th string. That's section 1 complete. Okay, so we're going to move on to part 2. I'll say a few things first of all. Part 1 was played very freely, and there was a lot of fluidity between the chords and the melody, and there actually wasn't that much separation in terms of distance between the bass notes, the chords, and the melody. So everything was kind of confined to here. We didn't really leave first position. Part 2 is played further up the neck. Okay, we're still going to be using the lower strings to provide the kind of bass notes and chords, but the melody itself is played an octave up, and that's nice for a couple of reasons. It gives you the sense that the song's moving along. It's a nice change for the listener and for you as the player as well. But as I said before, this should be played much more in time, and the song is in 3/4. Okay, so that means there's 3 beats in every bar. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's the time signature. So the last thing we did was this. Okay, here's part 2. That sets up the feel for part 2. What I'm doing here is just using the 3 lowest bass strings to play this a couple of times. So that is 6, 5, 4, 5, 4. 6, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. Okay. That's it. Now this part's important because it's at this point where you're bringing in the tempo of the song, so try not to play this too fast or too slow. If I was performing this myself, I would go for that's the kind of tempo I would go for. If you play this if you set the tempo too fast, it's going to sound very strange. It's going to sound like you've sped the song up. If you play it too slow, it's going to be a very slow rendition of the song, so just pay attention to that. Here's where I would sort of consider to be the right temperature, the right tempo for this. Right, so let's get into the main melody. As I said before, we're playing the melody an octave higher this time, so we're starting here. So what that is, that's the 5th fret. Sorry, that's the 7th fret on the 3rd string. Okay, that's your first note. Second note's there. That's the 5th fret on the 2nd string. And we're going to hammer on to the 7th fret on the same string. Okay, so that's... Then the bass comes in. So you can hear it gives you a much kind of wider sound than this. Okay, so that's much closer together in part 1. There's a lot more separation there. Okay, sorry we have. So that's moving from this chord, just these 2 fingers really, to this. So that chord is the 5th fret on the 2nd string and the 6th fret on the 3rd string. And you hammer on both of those strings back to that D shape. Okay, so you have... Right. Again. And this time we're going to change the melody note to up here. So you have... Okay, so that's that chord from before, that one. Then use your index finger to bring that note in, which is the 5th fret on the 1st string. So once you play that once, the next chord is this. Okay, so that's a D major chord here. We're now going to play a D major 7. Okay, so in context it'll sound like this. Okay. That's the next chord. Okay, so what that is I use my ring finger and pinky to play the 7th fret on the 1st string and the 7th fret on the 3rd string. Right, and the bass is here. Now there's a few ways to play this. Some people are more comfortable using their thumb. The note, by the way, it's a G note, which is the 5th fret on the 6th string. Alright, I kind of change this about. Sometimes I'll use my thumb, sometimes I'll use like a bar shape. It's completely up to you really. So you can either bar that whole thing at the 5th fret and then use your ring finger and pinky play the melody notes, or you can bring your thumb across, or if you don't want to play the whole bar, you can just, so what I'm doing there is I'm not barring everything there, just bring my index finger up to play that G note on the bass string. Doesn't matter which way you play it, the important thing is that you have all those notes there. Okay, so sorry. Okay, then you're going to play the triad, which is... Okay, so so that's the 5th fret on the 1st string, 7th fret on the 2nd string, 7th fret on the 3rd string. Jesus, that's a mouthful. So okay, so once you get to that part, it goes. So what that is a hammer-on from the 7th fret to the 5th fret on the 2nd string, and then bring in the 7th fret on the 3rd string. Okay. Right, so the next chord, sometimes I play like this, sometimes I'll play like this. Doesn't really matter whereabouts you play it. Let's get this in tune here. So probably more natural to play it here. So that's a G chord here, that's a G major chord. So you have 5th fret on the 6th string, open 4th string, open 3rd string, and 3rd fret on the 2nd string. The next chord is a G major chord with an A in the bass. So it sounds like this. There's your open A, and there's your G chord. It's a nice sound. Okay, so that G chord is 3rd fret on the 2nd string, 4th fret on the 3rd string, 5th fret on the 4th string, along with your open 5th string. Okay, so it should sound like this. Okay, and then the next chord is just a simple D major chord. Okay, get this in tune here. Just play the whole thing, and the variation of the D chord I'm playing here is open 6, open 5, 4th fret on the 4th string, 2nd fret on the 3rd string, 3rd fret on the 2nd string. So I'll just play that whole last section there for you. Okay, so sometimes at that point I'll play. So that's just basically taking that D shape and adding your pinky there on the 5th fret on the 4th string, and then back again. So right, next chord is up here. So what we'll have here is 5th fret on the 1st string, 6th fret on the 3rd string, played together. Now this next chord, I would recommend you use your thumb for it, just so the things ring out nicely. Yeah, I would definitely recommend you use your thumb here. I mean, you could bar this whole thing. You could bar it. I'll show you how I play it anyway. I much prefer to use my thumb. So this is a G chord. So we have 5th fret on the 6th string, don't play the 5th string, open 4th, 7th fret on the 3rd string, don't play the 2nd string, and 7th fret on the 1st string. And it goes down to that shape again. So that shape is the one we played just before. So just practice that if you find that to be an unusual move. Next note, the next part, it goes like this. So you're playing that 7th fret on the 1st string, right up using your pinky. So it's a hammer on, right up until the 10th fret. Okay. Here's your next chord. So you're barring the last 4 strings really. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're barring at the 7th fret, right? Now we're not actually going to be playing that note, so we're really just barring these. So the 2, 3, and 4 strings. We're not we don't need the first string, but I find it easier just to bar the whole thing instead of trying to separate them out. Do you know what I mean? So there. Okay, so that's the chord we're going for. So what I'm playing there is the 2nd string and the 6th string together, then the 4th string, then the 3rd string. And that's where the melody is. So we're hammering on from the 7th fret up until the 9th fret on the 3rd string. So you have, and here's your next chord. So what that is a B minor 7. So to play that, keep your bar that you had before, but add in this note, which is the 9th fret on the 6th string. And play 6, 4, 3. There is a variation on this, I've just remembered. You can play like this. So from the hammer on. So that involves a wee bit of sort of acrobatics. So you're barring, keeping this barred, and you're hammering on and pulling off on the 2nd string to give you this sound. Then continue as normal. Then bring that. Now this is quite it's quite tough to get this, and quite tough to get it to ring out the way it should, and I don't always get it. So sometimes when I've been playing this live, I don't always get it. It's a tough wee thing to get. Okay. If you prefer not to bother with that, it's just right. So next section is up here. So that's let me see. That is the 10th fret on the 2nd string and the 11th fret on the 3rd string, played together twice. Sorry, I can hear my hands cracking there. Okay. Take that same shape and slide it down 2 frets. Then that bar again. Alright. And you play the bass as well. Once you get yourself into that position, use your pinky to fret the 10th fret on the 1st string, and also bring in your ring finger to fret the 9th fret on the 6th string to give you that B minor 7 shape again with that D note away up there. Okay? You might find that to be a bit of a stretch or quite hard to hold down for too long. So that's the melody notes up there. Then play those again. So, and the next chord is slightly easier. This is an A chord, and the fingering is open 5th string, 7th fret on the 4th string, 6th fret on the 3rd string, and open 1st string. And if you play that, if you happen to play that D string or the B string as well, it's fine. Right, so in context, the melody is actually there on that open 1st string, so that's the most important one to get. Make sure you hit that. Okay, so I think on the YouTube video, the performance video, I did play this. what that is fretting the first string on the 5th fret, hammering off to the open, open B, 6th fret on the 3rd string, 7th fret on the 4th string, then bring the bass back in. Okay, so it's a nice variation on it. You don't have to play that. You could very easily just play. Just let that ring out. Okay, so from that A chord, and the wee fancy schmancy bit if you want to throw that in, we're going to play this again. It's pretty much the same thing again. So what I'm doing there, once you get to that A chord again, sometimes you can bring your, if you want, you can bring your pinky in and fret the 3rd string at the 7th fret, and then release it again. If you want, you don't have to do that. So. Okay, so the next part goes open 1st string, 8th fret on the B string, or the 2nd string. Okay, so that's and I. Okay, we're back to this D chord again that we had at the beginning of part 2. Okay, so we're basically just playing the same thing from the first part of part 2 again after this. So with this part, what I do is and just sort of strum down, and I don't use a thumb pick for that part. It's too strong. I just use this kind of soft part of one of my fingers. It doesn't really matter which finger you use, just whichever one you're most comfortable with. So the whole way through. Alright. And then your triad again. So this chord is almost like the last one we had. So that's the A chord, the G chord over an A bass. The only thing we're changing is we're bringing that note in. Okay, so that's where the melody note really is. That is the 5th fret on the 2nd string. So you're ending up with that shape really. And then back to your D chord there. That nice full D chord. So this is the end of the song, and whenever I'm playing this, it's a good idea to stop, all these kind of arpeggiating strings underneath. It's nice to sort of focus on the melody part itself and just give the bare minimum in the chords and bass underneath, and you should see what I mean. Now that's a new chord, so we'll have right. So that's your D major 7 from before. Right, so the notes are open D, 6th fret on the 3rd string, 7th fret on the 2nd string. Once you get to that part, you're going to go hammer on. But get yourself into this position. Yeah, sorry, I just had to think about this myself. That's the chord you want there. This is a D7. Okay, So that you're basically barring everything on the top 3 strings at the 5th fret, and also adding in that note there. So the whole thing is, and the next chord is this, so that G that we had before. Now instead of playing it this time and doing this like we did the last time, this time remember we're going to play a nice we're going to play the same chord really up here in harmonics. So if you've never played harmonics before, this may be a bit of a challenge, but just work at it, you will get it. It's not too complicated. So once you're at that part, the harmonic goes like this. So making sure everything's properly fretted down here, so making sure you're holding this shape. The harmonic starts here. So that is, if it would take it from the 12th fret here, it's 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, and the way I play this is bring your thumb back as far as possible and use your index finger to fret. Don't press down. Sorry. You're basically just using your index finger to rest it where this note is. So I'm not fretting. I'm not doing this. Just kind of rest it and right on the metal as well, like I said before. Okay? So that's your first note. The next note is here, so let me see, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, right? So you have 17 on the 6th, 19 on the 3rd, and the same again on the, so that's on the 4th string, and then the same again on the 3rd string. So that's what you have so far. Sorry. Alright. And then the top note is up here. So that's the 19th fret on the 1st string. So in context, they have okay, once you've impressed people with your harmonic skills, you then come back to this triad. Okay, so the G chord. Now this next chord is a G minor with an A in the bass, and it's a very unusual chord out of context, but it creates a lovely tension and a sound that you don't really hear in Irish traditional music, and it's certainly not in the original Luke Kelly version, and that's the reason why I wanted to throw this chord in, to really make it sound different. So the chord after this, after your G chord, is this. Okay, so what you have there is open 5th, 4th string at the 5th fret, 3rd string at the 3rd fret, and 2nd string at the 5th fret. So you can hear it sounds very sort of discordy, very unsettling sound. And the good thing is, because it is such an unsettling chord to hear, your ear is just really anticipating the resolution to come back round again to the end the song off. So so once you get to that part, all that is moving between this D chord and that D chord with the added G note here, which is the 5th fret on the 4th string. Once you play that, that 5th string, and we'll have a nice harmonic ending for the song, and it goes like this. Okay, so if you get that far, the guitar should be ringing out very nicely, and that's the end of the song. So I'll just take you through the harmonic section here. So you have 12th fret on the 6th, 5th, and 4th. The next note is here, which is the 7th fret on the 5th string. And the next note is here on the 4th fret on the 6th string. So far you have. The next note is here on the 7th fret on the D string, the 4th string. And the note after that is this same fret, 7th fret on the 3rd string. Okay, so far you have this. Next note is 12th fret on the E string. Next note is back to the 7th fret on the 2nd string. Then again on the 3rd. And then again on the 4th. Okay, so I'll just put everything together for you. So once you get to that part, the next note is a real note, which is the open E. And to finish the whole song, you just play a big D chord with a hammer on. Okay, so that's a hammer on from that E string, sorry, that E note to the F sharp note, which is going from 0 to 2 on the 1st string. Okay, so the whole thing. Oh, nearly played that. So that's Raglan Road for Fingerstyle guitar. I hope you enjoyed. If you do decide to try and tackle it, good luck. And use this video along with the tabs. And if you happen to have any questions, if I wasn't too clear or in any part of this, just leave me a comment, and if I can clarify it, I certainly will. Folks, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks.